There was an uprising in Oman, Britain's oil-rich friend. At a week's notice, the SAS was sent to the desert to put it down. Critics were confident that once the jungle specialists left the safety of the trees, they were finished.
Totally different world. Biblical. That's the best way to explain it. It was biblical, you know. When I've seen pictures in Bibles, I thought, oh, this is God's country. It was just like the Bible days.
Nobody in the squadron had been in an environment like we went into in Oman. It was something else. It was the lost world, if you know what I mean. It was not good news from the experience point of view, because nobody had experience of it.
They were there because the Sultan of Oman had asked the British government for help in putting down a ferocious local rebellion. Oman, at the mouth of the Persian Gulf, controlled the Strait of Hormuz, through which most of the tankers carrying oil to the west had to pass. It would be in British interests to quietly help the Sultan crush the uprising against him. And who better to do it than a regiment whose very existence could be publicly denied? But could they do it? The SAS would have to prove themselves or die. Yet the task they faced was almost impossible. To climb and to conquer mountains held by rebel forces which fell away 8,000 feet to the desert floor. This was the dreaded Jebel Akhdar.
The Jebel Akhdar, it looked absolutely horrendous from where I first saw it. But when you got close, it looked worse.
The precipitous mountains of the Jebel Akhdar are topped by a rugged plateau 20 miles long and 10 miles wide, where the rebels lived in scattered villages. The plateau is so well protected by its mountains that it hadn't been conquered for 1,000 years. The Persians had lost 10,000 men in their struggle to win these peaks. This time, the SAS would spearhead an assault with only 100 fighting men.
Nobody thought we would get up there. I think there was a lot of doubt at command level in the army, that a lot of doubt whether we could do it. They had no idea really what the SAS could do.
The enemy numbered around 1,000, and they were well trained and well armed. But their greatest weapon was their natural fortress. There were only a handful of routes up to the plateau, and these were just narrow tracks where a few rebels could hold off an army. In a series of early skirmishes, the SAS soon found out that the enemy were no pushover, and the dangers of having to operate in exposed terrain were brought home when they lost a man to a rebel sniper.
They knew the lie of the land and everything perfectly. And the visibility, you know, you could see for as far as your eyesight would allow you. And they could sit back and see any movement, detect it, and fire, because they had the weapon capable of killing people at that distance. British Lee Enfield rifles. Single shot, but, you know, magnificent weapon for sniping.
A conventional assault would be too obvious and was potentially suicidal. They opted instead for a plan of such risk and nerve that it was worthy of their motto, "Who dares wins." They were to attempt the impossible climb at night, by a route that the enemy would never expect. Avoiding the known paths, they chose a treacherous, uncharted course up a series of steep, rocky slabs, punctuated with sheer cliffs. They would be carrying huge loads, mostly weapons and ammunition, but a lot of it. They were expecting a fight.
Yeah.
That's a 7.62.
Yeah.
And then you got the belt fed for the Brownings there.
And they were 250 rounds in a box.
Yep.
And the box weighed 18 pounds.
Yes.
I was carrying about 120 pounds, at least.
I still can't believe it was bloody done myself, like.
40 years later, Lofty and Jimmy repacked a Bergen, or rucksack, with all the kit that they took on that memorable night.
You know, for some reason, probably because I'm approaching middle age, I don't feel like putting that on my back. Do you, Jim?
No, I bloody don't, no.
Well, we were expecting a war at the top, you see, and it's no good climbing a mountain if you haven't got the kit to stay up there when you get there.
Where's the victim?
Well, this is my son. He'll have a go at picking it up.
A heavy weight.
Lofty's son Andy is an independent financial advisor, trained to handle pounds sterling and a calculator, rather than pounds imperial and a rifle.
Now, before you break into a mad gallop, let me get out of the way.
Thanks.
How'd you fancy 6,000 feet, Andy?
Want to help to take it off. You
We're
don't.
too old for that, Jim.
Oh, come on, man. We got to take it off. You'll come back over.
That's quite a heavy load.
That is.
Yeah.
Such a weight of gear would normally have been carried by donkeys, but they'd never make it up the daunting route chosen by the SAS.